Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Professor Gavala, and today I have a really good friend of mine, Jesse. He's an amazing person. I met him around 2 years ago now, um, at an internship that we did together, and now he's electrical engineering at Northrop Grumman. Yeah, Jesse, you want to just introduce yourself?
Hey, uh, as Dama said, I'm Jesse, and I am currently working as a pathways engineer at Northrop Grumman. Yeah,
Nice. Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining me today. I just want to talk to you about kind of like your journey. Feel free to just, explain as much as you can. I'm sure the viewers would appreciate that. Young, inspiring electrical engineers and computer engineers as well, who visit my channel. Would love to hear your story. So just to begin, let me ask you this: why electrical engineering?
well, that goes back. So, why electrical engineering? That stems from my previous degree before that. So, when I started, I did psychology. That was my first degree. And throughout psychology, I learned about the nervous system. And then I thought, okay, well, I don't really want to work as a psychologist. So how can I better impact people's lives? And I figured maybe I could do it through engineering, and because I wanted to make something. And I discovered neural engineering, and one facet of that is electrical. And I thought, I like computers. Why not go with electrical engineering? That was kind of it. I really got into the robotics of things. I looked at Hugh Gare's robotic foot. I watched a few of those videos while I was in my first degree, and I looked at the Deca arm. Um, so that's kind of where it stemmed from.
Nice. Yeah. So you said that's really, really cool. I did not know that. So you said neural engineering.
Yeah,
Just real quick, have you ever heard of like neural networks, and
yeah,
machine learning?
yeah.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool because that's where that stems from. Is like the way the brain functions. It's
Mhm.
kind of like the neuralness of that. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So in terms of like your transition, did you ever work as you said you went to school for psychology?
Yep.
Did you ever work as a psychologist or anything like that? Or
No.
so you just went from like undergrad of electrical engineering straight to your undergrad of psychology straight to your second degree?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, I worked at a coffee shop. So I I got
Hmm.
the psych undergrad, and then I was like, all right, what am I doing? And I worked at a coffee shop for a bit, and then I went right into the undergrad for EE. Yeah.
Okay, nice, nice.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive in more into your undergrad for EE. So in terms of like applying and things like that,
Yeah.
how was that process for you?
It was quite a bit. I tried to find the cheapest way I could go about it while being from New York. So I was like, I just spent a lot for the psychology degree. How am I going to do this electrical engineering undergrad? Well, I think, I went about it as best I could. I started off, instead of going to a 4 year, I went to a community college. I got my feet wet going to community college, and I took all my prereqs there. Um, and it was not the easiest. SUNY,
Mhm.
Westchester Community College was not that easy. It was
Mhm.
um it was a good time. I learned a lot there. I had some amazing professors, and I met some amazing friends. Um and from there I then decided what kind of 4 year do I want to go to. And I was like, okay, well, do I want to like reach for the top? Do I want to go to like Carnegie Mellon? Do I want to go to Stanford? Do I want to go to these places? Because
Mhm.
I could. I had some pretty good grades. But then I was like,
Nice.
that's gonna be like 70K a year. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I can't do that. And by that time I was older. And I was like, well, how am I gonna do this? So I thought, okay, well, New York has a, some pretty good schools, and so I ended up going to SUNY Buffalo. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, a lot of people, to go back to your comment earlier about community college, a lot of people would normally think for some reason, I don't know why, that community college is easier than university. but I've taken a lot of community colleges courses throughout my years as an electrical and computer engineer, and those were some of my hardest classes.
Yeah.
um, and I think that it is a good thing that to go to community college and get the prereqs out of the way because it's cheaper. But do not underestimate them in terms of the listeners and the viewers. Don't underestimate or think that it's easier in terms of the coursework because
Mhm.
it's not. So again, so you applied, and so talk to us about your acceptance to the college that you went to, the university that you went to.
The acceptance or like the university itself?
The university experience, and what you said that the university was Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, it was University of Buffalo. So it's like State University of New York, uh, University of Buffalo. It was,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's a long name.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I've always wanted to I think I visited New York like once, but I've always like been amazed or fascinated by people who go to school there just because of how like the culture and like everything about New York, and it's like, you know. So let's dive into your EE coursework. So
Yeah,
how was that? How was that for you? Was that pretty easy or was that hard? Things like that.
it was like chaotic. It was like
Mm.
I felt like I got more out of the. It's gonna sound okay. I felt like I got more out of the classes at community college, and the reason is because there was just too much thrown at you
Mm.
at the school, and there was way too much thrown at you, and then you're just like, why are you giving me all these assignments? Like it was
Mhm.
like assignment after assignment after assignment, and then I'm over here going to the TA all the time, and I'm like
Mm.
going from class to class to class, and I'm just like, what am I supposed to remember from these classes? Um, that's kind of how it felt. It was like a gauntlet. Um, and then you make your friends, and that's really how you survive. You make your friends, you make your study buddies, and you kind of try to be as disciplined as possible when you study. You
Mm.
try, you go to the professor whenever you have questions, and it's like any question, whether it's like related to material or anything, so you get a better reputation with the professor. Um, it was a good learning experience, and the atmosphere really matters. I know there were a lot of students in that school that didn't like the cold weather, and I loved it.
Oh,
I
really?
yeah, yeah.
Just
It would be like it would be like
the
2 feet
the
of
way you said that was kind of, it was funny. You're like, and I loved it.
there were like dude, there were like 2 feet of snow on the ground, and everyone's saying like, I don't like this weather. I like it when it's
Yeah.
warm, and I'm like, I can't wait to drift to school. It's yeah, that the weather really, I think, changes not only how it like the outlook of your day or your week, but like because there's like the seasonal stuff, and but it really changes how well you do in the school. And I think that environment, because I enjoyed it so much, it made me excel, like, and all the friends I made. So, great learning environment. The courses themselves, um, hardest course I took, um,
Yeah, you're trying to think back because they
yeah,
put too much information in you. You don't
yeah, there's too
remember.
much.
You don't remember anything. Yeah.
It was the
Yeah, but I was gonna
yeah,
say before you dive into that, I was gonna
yeah,
say
yeah,
that yeah, to the listeners, I think going to office hours is very, very big.
yeah.
I am a professor right now at UNLV, and I think that the students that seek the help that they need, either from the professor or from the TAs or from the just the general sources that the university is providing, those students tend to excel more or have a higher chance of extending more in the
Hmm.
long run, right? Because a lot of students will come to university and they're pretty smart. They've from high school they're really really smart, but in college you really really need to outsource your help. Being smart can only take you so far. Is what I
Hmm.
say.
Hmm.
But yeah, going back to the question you're going to answer in terms of the hardest classes. um, what was your hardest class? Was it control system? Was it microelectronics? Was it computer engineering? or even just like basic circuits, learning like things
Yeah.
like analysis methods. Yeah.
Yeah, throughout the whole electrical engineering curriculum, I would say the
Mhm.
hardest courses were I think basic circuits, just getting into
Okay.
it. But that and then the analog classes. But they were also my favorite.
Mm.
They were like the bread and butter of what I do now, and I like them the most. And then there was RF. Those are like the
Yeah.
three: electromagnetics, RF. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Mm.
electromagnetics was pretty hard for me as well, but I really loved like learning about like Maxwell's equations.
Mm.
I really loved that topic, and I had a good teacher as well. So that was really hard. I mean, that was really cool.
Yeah.
For me, my hardest class was actually computer engineering,
Oh
two.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
like learning about like pipelines, delays, registers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it was hard because um it's a hard class. I just think I didn't have a good teacher. Like for
Mm.
example,
Okay.
my teacher mid of the semester got up and went to China for a conference the remainder the remainder of the semester. So yeah, so I don't know what about you? Did you experience something like that where like the class wasn't necessarily hard, it was just a teacher or what?
The VLSI course we took, the professor
Okay.
just wasn't even like present. He just he stood in the front of the course and just kind of like talked about life.
Mm,
And I was like, what is happening right now? The people that really got us through the course were the TAs. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Course wasn't
Yeah.
even that difficult. It was just like mismanaged. Yes.
Mhm.
Um,
I see.
yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, were you in any like
Yeah.
extracurricular activities? Can you expand more on that? Talk to us
Yeah.
about that.
100%. So there was this lab called the University of Buffalo Nauta Satellite Laboratory that I was a part of. Right. So this right before I went to TI, I had a time in the lab where I was doing some like it was this thing called a short cycle lab. So it was just kind of teaching these the new members of the lab rudimentary things, and I had some time pretty like getting that up to speed with where it should be because that lab happened to be a little, let's say, mismanaged because of the pandemic. So
Mm,
it had to be like revitalized. And so I attempted to do that. That was like my first stint in lab. That's when I got to SUNY Buffalo. That's kind of what I started doing. So I was in
mm,
this lab the whole time, for like 2 years. Then the summer happened, we went to TI, and I had agreed to take on this project that was funded by the Air Force Research Labs. And this project was considered to be like a dumpster fire. Um,
mm.
and when I got there,
I mean,
yeah.
what does that mean, a dumpster fire?
So there were about there were a variety. It was 12 years old. I'll start with
Okay.
that. It was a 12-year-old project. And there was one head, and then the rest of the people that were working on it worked on it very well. They were like really diligent about the work they were doing, and they knew what they were doing.
Mm,
But there was information is lost over time. It's really hard to get that information back. And the organization of that information was like wildly organized. And so
I
what I
see.
did when I got there was I reorganized all the information. I like recruited a bunch of people to the teams. I tried to disseminate that information as best I could. I delegated a bunch of responsibilities. Now
Yeah.
this at this time,
Yeah.
I'm like taking 6 courses at a time.
Oh my God. Yeah. Jesus.
So I don't remember my senior year.
Wow.
Like I just don't remember those five. Okay, so what people usually do, right? And in like their senior year, they take all these classes, they do all these projects, and they remember their projects to get into
Yeah,
jobs,
like student design. Yeah.
right? And what I did was I basically assisted the team in bringing this satellite back to life. Um, so that was my extracurricular experience.
Wow.
It was more programmatic and like a program manager type of role than it was a technical
I,
role.
I was gonna say maybe that's what your internship at TI should have been, was being
No,
a
no,
program manager.
no,
You should
no.
have told him like, hey, I'm managing more than you guys over here, man. I need to.
They allowed me to play with like a lot of money. I
Yeah,
could have done
wow.
whatever I wanted because Dr. Crucides is
Hmm.
he's the PI of the lab, and you know he's from what I understand a great mentor, and he's very well known in the aerospace industry and aerospace academia, and he grilled me during a mock review, and that was an enlightening time. You know, he said, you got to be a little more confident. And I was like, wow, you know, he thinks I have to, okay, yeah, like, let me work on that. Um, that was like a week before we went up to the Air Force Research Labs and did our thing. Um, but yeah, it was a good experience, I
Wow.
think.
Yeah.
Very programmatic. I wish it was more technical,
Yeah.
but yeah, it
It
was a good
feels
time.
like you were just basically putting missing pieces together versus
100%.
actually going into the engineering part. You were just kind
That's
of
what they're
putting a
doing now.
team. Oh yeah, now
that
they're doing
team,
the engineering.
that
Yeah.
team literally right now, they're doing all
Yeah.
that now. They're integrating everything. They
Wow.
took everything that, yeah, so they went full speed ahead. Um,
Nice.
yeah,
Do you still keep in contact, or do you still like,
absolutely.
yeah, nice, nice.
Yeah.
And also, do you guys have any publications from the lab?
Oh wow. I don't know.
Yeah, okay,
Probably, I mean, they
okay.
have a website.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if you do, definitely make sure
They
you put your name on there, because
if
you know,
yeah,
yeah.
they have what's called a little free radio. Um,
Hmm.
there were a few individuals involved in the development of that. It's called the LFR, and you can Google it.
Hmm.
It's open source. You can you can get the revision, you can
Hmm.
get the PCB, you can put all the parts together, and you can test it out yourself.
Nice.
It's what the lab is really known for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they have some publications out there that we could read up on. Just but so just
Yeah.
going yeah, so just going back and going back to more of like career strategies as an
Hmm.
electrical engineer. So you were in this lab for, you said, 3 years? How many years? 2 years?
About a year and a half too. Yeah.
Year and a half, too. And
Yeah.
you did some internships with Texas Instruments. Did you do any other internships, or just Texas Instruments?
It was just TI.
Just the
Yep.
okay. And then I was gonna say, any career strategies when applying for like electrical engineering jobs. So for example, you're about to finish your senior year. What were your strategies when you were applying for the jobs? Like, did you use things like LinkedIn, Indeed? Did you go door to door to companies? Did you call recruiters? Like, what were your strategies, and like what did you put on your resume to attract yourself to recruiters?
It was your projects. What you really want to do to stand out from everyone else is put your projects on there. And if you really want a specific job, I think what you should do is put the keywords on there. You got to put keywords related to the job. You have to have
Hmm.
a resume like tailored to what you want to do. Um,
Hmm.
so whether it's power electronics or IC design or RF, you know, you need to have the coursework listed that you worked on that. And then you have
Yep.
to show that you either did internships or you did research or you did a project or two. And those should honestly, those projects should go first on the resume, and the rest comes after.
Yeah.
That's kind of it for me. I mean, I had a pretty basic resume. The one extracurricular I had was that lab, but that was more
Hmm.
programmatic. The rest of the projects I had, I was barely involved with. So when I reached out to Northrop Grumman, they basically said to me like, "Oh, hey, this is what you're interested in. Okay, we see your GPA. Um, you're good to go."
Okay.
That's
Nice.
literally how that happened for me. Yeah. I was also
Yeah.
referred to by a friend.
Okay.
So you want if you can referrals,
Yep.
uh if you can know someone in the company, um that makes it a little easier. Leverage all your
Hmm.
resources. speak to your professors. Maybe they know someone. Um, don't be afraid to cold call. Don't be afraid to message people on LinkedIn. Um, if you can, have like a little website.
Hmm.
I don't know of many people that do that, but you get
Hmm.
that'd be great for a portfolio. Yeah,
Yeah.
all those things.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so reach out. So have someone give you a referral.
Mhm.
Reach out on LinkedIn, cold calls,
Yeah.
advisory recommendations, like professor
Yes.
recommendations.
Yes.
And what was the last thing you said?
Oh,
Um,
I don't know.
projects.
There
Have
you go.
projects
Yeah, that's
on
it.
your
Yeah.
on your resume. Okay, yeah, I think those are really cool, like five key things. Those are five key things that are very, very important and everyone should do when looking for a job. Hmm.
Another thing,
Hmm.
study for the internship. You have to know the company. You have to know
Yes.
their culture, their values, what they're
Yes.
known for, what they do. You have to know, use Reddit, use Glassdoor, use
Yeah.
everything you can to understand like what's their interview like.
Yeah.
Um, do you need to study for their interview? Do you need to know certain technical topics?
Yeah.
Um, for TI specifically, I was just going to mention them. It was only an internship, and they tested me. Literally test like and you, right? They
Hmm.
tested you too. They
Yeah.
they they,
Hmm.
they asked you. It wasn't just basic circuits.
Yeah.
It was like it was basic plus.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, 2 to 3 interviews.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a key thing is to study. I think it's not too hard to study, especially when it
Mhm.
comes to like the tricky questions. Like you said, things like Glassdoor are very, very
Mhm.
good. You just hop on there and you could see basically what other people have been asked in the past. And a lot of times interviewers just filter out these questions because why? Um, Again, remember these interviewers are full-time workers. They're not just hanging out interviewing you, right? They have full-time
Mhm.
projects they need to be working on. So they're not going to be really creating new and innovative problems. They're just going to be filtering out through
Yep.
five of them. And the likelihood of those five questions hopping on Glassdoor is very, very high. So again, just
Mhm.
make sure you're going on things like Glassdoor, Indeed, LinkedIn, and looking at these questions that I've asked in the past and studying up on them. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
go into the juicy stuff, right?
Okay.
I think a lot of people want to know, and if you could talk about this, that'd be great. Some of the interview questions that were asked to you by NG. And again, anything that you can't talk about, that's fine. But if you can, that would be great. Hmm.
Interview questions. Okay.
Hmm.
For the process for NG, it was cut and dry. It was a pathways engineering um role. And for the pathways engineer, it's like you need to meet this minimum GPA of 3.7. And from there, this is all he asked me. He kind of sold the job to me. He said,
Hmm.
um, this is what we have to offer. What are you interested in? And I told him the few things that I was interested in, and he was like, okay, we'll give you a call. That was it
Hmm.
for NG.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
you got to be a citizen.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because
That's
it's defense. Yeah, because
yes,
it's
that's
defense,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be a
I see.
citizen. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
That was very, yeah, that was very cutthroat and dry.
Yeah.
And not now, no behavioral questions, no technical questions.
Barely.
Barely. Okay.
No. I think the guy who interviewed me, he was a PhD and he had like 30 publications. I
Mm.
studied who he was before I, got interviewed by him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I tried to basically say like, hey, I know what I've looked at like some of your papers because I did, and I was like, I'm interested in the RF stuff, and this is
Mm-hmm.
what I know, and this is my project or two, and he
Mm-hmm.
looked everything over and he said like, yeah, okay,
I
nice,
see. Yeah.
yeah, it was,
And
yeah,
yeah. Was he the only one who interviewed you, or did you get interviewed by any other team members?
he was the only one.
Okay. Okay.
No, no, what happens with the pathways is, um. you're not with that team. So you basically get interviewed. Um, It's not like a direct hire position. You don't go with that team. What happens is you get
Mm,
interviewed by someone, some hiring manager, some engineer, someone technical, and they say, okay, cool. So this is what you're interested in. You're going to be thrown on this, like, let's say poster board, whatever.
mm,
And whoever
mm,
needs that kind of whoever sees that and says, hey, this is what this person's interested in, let me go grab that off the wall. Now you're going to work for me. And you don't hear who you're going
mm.
to work for quite a while.
Oh,
I
wow.
didn't hear who was going to be my functional manager for. It's called functional manager. I don't even know if like commercial has functional managers, but
Mm,
that's kind of what it was. He said like, "Hey, you're gonna work for me. This is what we do," and
yeah.
yeah, that's how that started. I had no
Wow.
idea until
Okay.
then.
That's that. Yeah. And then you talked about pathway electrical engineers. Can you
Mhm.
dive into more of what that means versus like a regular engineer, electrical engineer at Northrop Grumman?
Sure, yeah. It could be literally anything. So it depends on what you say to the recruiter or the engineer that's interviewing you. And the Pathways program is essentially 3 rotations, a year long each. And in those rotations, the first one is kind of given to you. You don't choose that. And then the remainder of the rotations are you have to search um, for potential jobs that you are interested in. So you
Mm,
basically, Northrop's a massive company.
mm,
Um, and you have to basically do your job to search through Workday and kind of filter out all the people that do the work that you like and
mm,
cold call and show them your resume,
mm.
tell them your pathways, and then they may or may not have a position for you on their team doing that work.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not an internal thing where the company kind of has everything set up for you already. You have to kind of go out and do the work, even if you're already hired onto the company.
They have something that's internal that does that. So,
Oh, okay,
but
okay, okay.
but realistically, what you're gonna end up doing,
Yeah.
if that doesn't work out, is you're really gonna like find people. I can tell you the story of how I got into where I am now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first the first rotation was it was like FPGA verification and test of a design. Um and that individual that designed it ended up being my mentor. And so I built the test bench for that work. And
Mm,
then I was in a lab for a long time. Um and I was just basically testing if his code worked or not. And so I was verifying. It was a verification and test role, essentially.
mm.
Someone recently told me sound like an applications role, like applications at TI. Anyway,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, so from there, when time came, I was like, okay, well, I really want to do Rivik Mimic stuff. And for those that don't know, that's radio frequency integrated circuits and monolithic microwave integrated circuits. Um,
Okay.
and I really wanted to do that coming in. So probably like 2 months into the job, I was like, okay, well, who does Rivik Mimic stuff? I scrounged, dude. I went through the company's like internal web browser to find out who actually does this work. Because I know Northrop
Nice.
has they have their own foundry, they have their own Mimic and Rific teams. And I was like, I really want to use this opportunity and leverage my resources as much as possible. So I ended up finding one of the lead people in what's called the electrical electronic design and integrated circuit team. And
Mm,
I met with her. Turns out that I think someone in her family would bring them on field trips to TI, literally. And so we bonded that way. And she was like, "Okay, we'll reach out to you." And
wow.
that's kind of how how that happened. Yeah,
Okay.
that's how
Wow.
that.
So that's how you transition from your first pathway to your second.
It took a long time because yeah,
Yeah.
it took a really long time because that was in like November,
Mhm.
and then I waited until August. Uh,
Jesus. Of the
yeah,
next
yeah, it was
year.
like yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's when I was
wow.
reached out to by my current manager, who's,
Yeah.
amazing. Both managers are amazing, but like this one is pretty
Mhm.
special. Yeah,
Okay, so then you have one more after this one, right?
that's correct.
Can you talk to us more about number one, what you're looking for your last pathway
Hmm.
rotation, and then secondly, what is the end goal of the pathway? So, for example, do you stay with the last one you do, or can you go and pick back from the first the last two you did, or do you just go to something completely different?
Okay, so uh the next one I want to do is analog.
Okay.
Because right now I'm doing RF, and so they split them. I mean, RF is
Mm.
literally analog, but in this company they
Yeah.
split them.
Okay.
So I would like to do a rotation there, and that's through this group that I'm in, so I could like easily transition.
Hmm.
Um, Hopefully, if they have a spot, if they have work for me to do, that's also how this works. It's a defense company, so it's kind of like
Hmm.
program oriented, who gets funding, when it gets funding, and whether or not they're
Yeah.
willing to bring you on and hold your hand if you have no idea what you're doing. Um,
Yeah.
it's kind of how it's how it works. Um,
Yeah.
Especially as a pathways, because there are pathways that I'm going to say this real quick. There are pathways that can be like a software engineer. They came from some different completely different background, but they're pathways.
Oh,
So if they want,
okay.
yeah. So that's what this is like. I could be doing like business if I wanted. So a person that did software in college, they say like, hey, I'm pretty interested in like mimicryphic stuff, and then they speak to someone and they say like, yeah, we'll take you on. We have a very basic thing that you can start learning. Very basic, like passive devices, dude. Like,
Hmm.
yeah. And we'll put you on this project. You'll get a mentor because they have a mentorship program at this company, which is amazing. And that's how you
Hmm.
start learning. Um, in my case, I'll easily transition to analog. And then after that third rotation, I can probably go back to any one. But considering how much I'm enjoying this one, um, we'll see.
Let's
So
see. Nice.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll see. I do want to mention you don't have to stay in a rotation. Depending on how long it is, they have a strict rule. 6 months is the
Hmm.
minimum amount of time you can stay in a rotation.
I see.
Minimum.
Okay.
Because, if you have complications, maybe you don't like, maybe maybe the team doesn't like you, maybe you don't like the team, maybe you don't like the work you're doing.
Yeah,
That's the minimum amount of time, and then you can go somewhere else. And
I see.
you can go full time because you're not considered full time in a group until
Hmm.
you make that choice. And you have to you have to go to your manager and say like, hey, I really like this group, I like this work. I would like to go full time in this group, and then they have to make sure that they actually have an open position for you. Uh,
I see.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's really cool. I was gonna say it's kind of like honestly, it kind of feels like you know how when you're like a senior in college and
Hmm.
like you can pick these electives depending on what you want to specialize in kind of thing. Some people do control, some people do analog, some people do like RF, you're saying. It kind of feels like that, but like you're actually in the real world. So you get like real hands-on experience, which is really cool that Northrop Grumman does. Like
Hmm.
I've heard of rotational programs within companies, but they're very like cut and dry, kind of
Hmm.
like you're in the same umbrella of a team, but you're just rotating against different sub managers. Um, so that's why, like if you remember at Texas Instruments, we kind
Hmm.
of had that, but we just went from applications to product manager,
Yeah.
product engineering to like to
Full verification.
testing
Yeah.
verification,
Yeah.
right? But under the same kind of team. So it's
Mm.
really cool that like you can really transition to a
Yes.
completely different team. And could you also go to like a different state if you wanted
Yes, you
to?
can. You can go to California if you wanted. I'm in
Wow.
Maryland. I'm at
Yeah.
Baltimore Washington International Airport. I'm in their
Hmm.
main headquarters for RF devices,
Yeah.
radars, really. You can go anywhere, dude. You just have
Yeah.
to make sure that they have an open spot and you make the right
Mhm.
connections. It's really all about expanding your network.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really cool, juicy stuff. I hope the viewers are appreciating this.
I hope
Um,
so too.
yeah. So let me ask you this. I don't want to go too much into like salary, but I want to ask,
Mm.
compared to a full-time engineer and a pathway engineer, do you guys still get like benefits, like
Yes.
healthcare, stock
Yep.
options,
Yep.
everything?
You get everything. You
Okay.
get everything
You
a
get it.
full-time does. I think the
Yeah.
the discrepancy is it's kind of like you're doing the rotations are almost like very long internships. That's what it sounds like,
Mhm.
kind of what it feels
Mhm.
like sometimes.
Mhm.
Depends. Depends how your team sees you, depends what they know about you, depends how well you can do the work. I mean, think about it. You
Mhm.
get a software guy that comes in to do MMIC, RFIC stuff. It's like an
Yeah.
internship. You
Yeah.
have someone that comes in like me, they still don't think I know how to do anything. but I have the
Mm,
basics.
I see.
So,
I see.
yeah, that's
I see. Yeah, also I was gonna comment and say that's also pretty cool that like an ME can come in and do like a software engineering rotation
yes.
because like um that could be very overwhelming, right? For example, you go to school as a mechanical engineer, but your passion really lies now with machine learning, you know?
Mm,
So, I feel like this opportunity of a pathway electrical engineer and NG allows you to be like, okay, you're an ME, but let's see if you want to try software engineering, try it out, or computer science,
right,
try it out, see how it is for you. So I think
right.
that's also really cool.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so then let's go to this. What is the coolest thing? Like, for example, in terms of like both your rotations that you've done so far, the coolest things you've done, like that you can geek out on and that you're amazed by.
Okay. Yeah, two things. Coolest things that I've done. Finding errors on a digital test bench. You would never guess what kind of errors you see, literally
Mm,
ever. And admittedly, I was not good at that role. I did not particularly enjoy it. I enjoy mimeographic stuff, but when I was there, it was really fascinating to see like you will see a timing issue on a oscilloscope,
mm,
and it could be hidden in the noise of the signal.
wow.
And yeah, and I don't really know. I don't think I can go further than that, but it's you spot particular issues um in that environment that really only experience can give you. Um
Mm,
and it's r- one thing to like go to school and never use an oscilloscope on a digital system, but when you're measuring
mm,
the output of an FPGA on an oscilloscope and you're measuring a clock and a data line and you're aligning, what you see on a data sheet with what's on the oscilloscope, I mean, it's like what a DIY person would do, so they'd already have
yeah,
that experience. But for someone that didn't really do that much, that was really great. It's a
I
it's a
see.
very significant, it's rewarding, and it's a good learning experience. Moving to where I am now, I would have to say what I'm doing is really cool.
Mm,
I'm, uh, you know, I'm working on something that's like conceptual. I was handed a filter design. I simmed it in ADS. Then I
mm,
started using Northrop's internal IP for their, what they do use for the foundry.
mm,
And I started replacing all of those, I guess, very, what is it? The components that ADS would normally have. And I put the real components in there instead.
wow.
And I simmed that. And then I was told to modify an inductor, and I said, okay, sure. And so I'm over here in HFSS playing with an inductor. And
Nice.
what's really awesome about this whole experience is um learning about these components in an exploratory way, at least in this role, and being able
Mm,
to use everything this company has to do that, and you're
yeah.
given time. So it's a combination of the role that I'm in as a pathways
Mm,
and the actual work I'm doing. I mean, simulating an inductor in HFSS and then playing with it and modifying it is pretty cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like you're both building and testing,
Yes.
which is dope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then to piggyback off that, what's the hardest part? I guess what's the most challenging? Because I know you were talking about how earlier in the interview you were saying how you had to really dive into these things
Yeah.
because no one's gonna hold your hand kind of thing. So yeah, talk more about the hardest part of working at
So
NG.
I think the hardest part is knowing who to talk to. I mean, you have your mentors, you have your leads, you have your people you're working directly with, but there's also the perfect balance of not asking too many questions. And
Mm.
you don't want to sound like you don't know what you're doing. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they also don't expect too much of it pathways. So there's that.
Yeah.
Um, so they're always willing to lend a helping hand, but I think the biggest difficulty is um making progress. There weren't any real, I mean, the real goal here is to, like simulate and optimize, but to what extent? And I think being able to, you know, answer a question is the hardest thing to do. What am I actually looking for when I optimize it? They'll tell you.
Yeah.
They'll tell you. They'll be like, "Oh, we want a better, we want a better quality factor." You're like,
Mhm.
"Okay." And then you go ahead and you run I don't know how many sims. And
Yeah.
then you're like, "Well, is this what I'm looking for? Is maybe this is good, but then how is this gonna work, you know, when I switch out all the components?" And then like you have these weekly meetings and it's like
Mhm.
kind of when is it enough? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, a better quality factor is very vague. And I feel like a lot of corporate people like to use those type of words. And it's like, what does that mean? A better quality? Is it faster delay, like shorter delay time? Is it cleaner signal? What do you mean by a better
so
quality factor? You know, like
so
yeah,
so that was an example, but
yeah,
that was just like something, but when you're dealing
yeah,
with I guess these circuits in ADS, it's very specific. Obviously, I was given the parameters that they wanted. Um, and I think the hardest part is kind of knowing when to ask the right questions, knowing what to ask, and knowing how to move forward from there.
I see.
That's really it. Yeah. And learning on the side. It's
Yeah,
like how
yeah,
much
you have
time
to.
how much time should I put into learning on the side? I think I said this
Mhm,
earlier, maybe before the interview. I said
mhm.
another thing that's pretty difficult to do is, I'm a new engineer and all these people have like 9 to 10 years of experience. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, let me go home and read a book on this, I guess. And
Hmm.
like I gotta keep up. I'm
Yeah.
still watching videos from like Michael Van Biezen, dude. I'm watching like
Yeah.
organic chemistry tutor. Like I'm
Yeah.
watching like original like the old school videos of how things work. So
Yeah. That's what a lot of people need to understand is that once you get out of engineering, like school, that doesn't mean that you're done studying engineering, right? Because in honestly speaking, in 4 years or maybe 5 years, it's not enough time to teach you everything about engineering. No matter if it's electrical engineering, computer engineering, it's not enough time. So that means that after your regular 9 to 5 or your regular work shift, that means you have to get home, open up a book or open up a YouTube
yeah,
and still keep on actively learning.
yeah.
Because you don't want to lag behind, right?
Mhm.
Um, and that's in any role too, a managerial role or quality controls role, any role that you want to do it in engineering, you always have to be actively learning, I feel like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in terms of living in Maryland, so you said you're from New York.
Hmm.
You said you like the cold, which I do not like the cold. I'm like the opposite of you. I grew up in Illinois, but I left
Yeah.
Illinois as fast as I could just because I couldn't go to class or if I dreaded going to class if it was snowing outside, you know. But during my graduate courses at University of Arizona, that was great because it never snowed. So I actually like not that it didn't snow. So you said you from New York and now you live in Maryland. Tell us about the transition, how it is, the culture of being electrical engineering in Maryland, just for the listeners. Yeah.
Hmm. It's quiet. I go to when I first got here, I went to Baltimore a lot.
Mm,
Baltimore. I would hang out in the Inner Harbor. I would hang out with
mm,
friends and go to all the bars that people usually go to.
mm,
Um, that's like where it's pretty lively over there in
mm.
Baltimore. It's a
Yeah.
it's an interesting city for sure. But being in like outside of that, because I didn't live there. I didn't live in Baltimore. A lot of my friends do.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends did. My roommate used to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he had to get out of there.
Is it just like you get in trouble a lot or what is the vibes at it in Baltimore? Like what's going on?
It's pretty like um it's weird. It's like you have some like well built areas or like gentrified areas or something, and then like
Mm,
you go to like
mhm.
2 blocks up, and then all of a sudden it's just like what happened?
Yeah.
And at least in Baltimore, but
Yeah.
like Nice city. It's definitely Charm
Yeah,
City.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. In Maryland itself though, um, Maryland's nice. It's open. It's
Mhm.
I like open. I
A
like the
lot of
green.
trees, right?
A lot of
Yeah.
green, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of green.
Are there a
And
lot of are there a lot of electrical engineering companies in Maryland?
dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
Maryland and the DC area, it's all defense.
Yeah, true,
All of it's
true.
government. And so it's
Yeah.
like literally it's crazy. There's a lot of E companies, mostly big like government. And then you have the smaller like I don't know, contractors, subcontractors. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say like the East Coast is like in terms of defense, like all
Mhm.
across the board. The
Yeah.
East Coast is um it's like where you guys do like the lab testing and like
Yeah.
the simulations like in-house. And then the West Coast, like Arizona, Nevada, California, is where they just blow stuff up. Because
Yeah.
in Arizona, you couldn't drive like 50 miles without finding another like military base where they're just like,
Yeah.
you know, fast like racing cars and just like testing nukes, classified stuff. But man, I just, because it's so
I'm
much space,
yeah. I
you
don't know if it's
know.
classified when they're just blowing it up right there, you know. It's just
Yeah.
it's a
No,
binoculars like, oh.
because you walk up and you be like, hey, can I go in here? And they'll be like, no, 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 no. It's classified. It's like I literally see like a hole in the ground. Like, what do you mean? Like it's classified? But yeah, I
Yeah.
just thought that was pretty cool always. Um,
Uh,
okay,
a
so
little,
then
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
A little more on Maryland. There's a lot to do here. You know, there's a lot to do with hiking spots.
Mm,
Well, I guess you have to go, further out. But yeah, there's lots to do there too. There's Annapolis. Annapolis is beautiful. Annapolis is only
mhm,
like 30 minutes east of me. Um,
mhm.
you can go sailing in the summer. Baltimore's got some nice stuff
Nice.
in the summer. Dude, I went to poetry party in Baltimore.
No,
Yeah.
okay. A
Yeah, dude,
poetry party?
it's literally called, I think it was called Poetry Party. Yeah. It was a great time.
Okay.
It was a great time.
No,
Um,
that sounds awesome. Yeah.
yeah, no, it was yeah, it was
Yeah.
a fun time.
All
Middle of
right.
Baltimore.
So
Yeah.
so let's just wrap things up here. So last
Sure.
question for you. Do you have any like wise words of wisdom for aspiring engineers in general or electrical engineers in general?
Yeah. Keep learning. Try to do as much DIY stuff as you can,
Mhm.
I guess, before you have a family. I don't know. It's like I'm not there yet, but
Yeah.
like I came in
Yeah.
late. Um, I came in real late. I already had a bachelor's, you know. I got my second bachelor's and I'm like, well, I didn't really have time to do DIY stuff, but that's what people really like. They like a person that is able to kind of talk the talk and walk the walk. You know, they're able to say like, oh, they've worked on these things already. Um, but it's got to be your passion and you got to want it. You know, you
Yeah.
got to kind of want to need it
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Keep learning. That's a good one.
Yeah.
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 I like that.
Yeah. Uh, don't, if you have a good opportunity, don't give it up. If
Mm,
something is given to you and you know it's a good opportunity, don't say I could do better. Stick with it.
mm.
You never know what might happen. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a unique one, but I like it.
Yeah. Comes from
Yeah.
experience.
Jesse, man. All right. Thank you so much, man. Love you, man. Yeah, thank you.
Love you too,
Um,
dude.
yeah. All right. So we'll go ahead and end it there.